Thou shalt not revile the gods, nor curse the ruler of thy people. Exodus 22:28. Greetings, mortals, and a truly divine and blessed day to you all. I am your host, Simeon, and you are once again tuning in to the Library of Gnosis. The Universal Church, also known as the Roman Catholic Church, has historically wielded religious authority to control and influence populations. They made a big deal out of persecuting Christians. And once the Roman Empire adopted Christianity, the reverse happened, and it was the pagans who got the short end of the stick. Do you not see that these people simply use religions as a tool of control? They obfuscate the true reality, while playing into any apparent differences and maximizing them. It is a trick as old as time. Divide and conquer. As I have previously covered on this channel, the ancient Israelites were polytheistic and worshipped multiple Canaanite gods, including El, Asherah, and of course later Yahweh. Now, if I am not mistaken, these Canaanite gods would be considered pagan gods. Yet the god Yahweh, that most of the Abrahamic faiths consider the one true and only God, was also one of these Canaanite gods himself. So both Judaism and Christianity have their origin in paganism. The distinct monotheistic nature of Judaism developed gradually. By the time of the Babylonian exile in the 6th century BCE, the exclusive worship of Yahweh and the rejection of other gods became more pronounced, leading to a more defined monotheistic belief system. A lot of the stories from the Old Testament share similarities with the Sumerian stories, like for instance in the case of Noah and the Great Deluge. Ziusudra in Mesopotamian religion is the rough counterpart to the biblical Noah as survivor of a God-sent flood. When the gods had decided to destroy humanity with a flood, the god Enki, who did not agree with the decree, revealed it to Ziusudra, a man well known for his humility and obedience. It was Enlil who sent the flood. This much better explains the flood myth, rather than as the Bible makes it seem, as if Yahweh is bipolar or something. Many people seem to think that the Bible borrowed from the Sumerian stories. But I propose that both the Abrahamic and the Sumerian stories instead have a common root source from which these stories originate. This would explain all the similarities between the two supposedly separate ideologies. According to the Bible, we were made in the image of the Elohim, or gods, made in our image, in our likeness, after all. If I am not mistaken, Abraham, from which we get the name of the Abrahamic faiths, was from Sumer after all. The Anunnaki worship is of course also a pagan worship. The translators of the Bible into English has twisted the meaning of Elohim into being singular for God to fit their narrative of monotheism. But they sometimes slip up and leave the plural in, like in the verse of the King James translation I used for the opening of the video. We have literally never stopped worshipping the old pagan gods. We simply decided to only worship one of the pagan gods. And we have, slowly, or perhaps rapidly, forgotten the other gods. Or we did the trick of demoting them to angels, which, by the way, is a role. It simply means messenger. It tells us nothing about their anatomy, Same goes for Satan, of course, which is also not a name or likewise, but only a role. The role of adversary. Though it does seem to be linked to the dragon as mentioned in Revelation. The god El, who I equate with the Sumerian Anu, had 70 sons, one of them being the supposed creator god, Yahweh. Yahweh was a minor god, worshipped by the ancient Israelites, until the cult of Yahweh came along and promoted him to the role of the supreme god, and El-linked epithets slowly became interchangeable with the Elohim Yahweh. For you, Yahweh, are the Most High over all the earth. You are exalted above all the gods. Psalm 97:9. I really do not like defining myself. I am a living soul, not an ideology. But I guess what I believe most closely matches the definition of Gnosticism, which is a term you could apply to an Hermeticist too, as it is just a pagan form of Gnosticism. A lot of modern Gnostics completely seem to discount the Old Testament as just lies from Yahweh. But I have good reason to believe that these stories far predate the monotheism of Yahweh, and that later Jewish redactors have been artificially adding in Yahweh's name into older Elohim stories. But Abram said to the king of Sodom, "With raised hand I have sworn an oath to Yahweh, God Most High, Creator of heaven and earth." Genesis 14:22, New International Version. As Yahweh is a later name, the insertion of the Tetragrammaton, we must conclude, is a later addition by Jewish redactors to try and disguise the fact that Abram swears to the Canaanite god El Elyon instead of Yahweh. I will stretch out my hand to the Lord, Kyrios, the Most High God, El Elyon, who made the heaven and the earth. Genesis 14:22, Septuagint. As the Septuagint does not mention the name of Yahweh, scholars have concluded that the Greek translators must have been looking at an older Hebrew copy that does not include the Tetragrammaton. It is sad to see the original text get redacted by later Jewish scribes for the sake of fitting a narrative. Gnostics love saying the serpent in the Garden of Eden is Jesus. Yet, at the same time, a lot of them completely want to dismiss the Old Testament. That does not make sense to me. The Bible are Elohim stories. El, Asherah, and Baal, for instance, are some mentioned. Yahwehism was originally just a cult. We also have to remember that the stories in the Old Testament are not placed in a strictly chronological order. When El Elyon divided up the nations, when he divided up humankind, he decided the people's boundaries based on the number of the sons of God. But Yahweh's portion is his people, Jacob his allotted heritage. Deuteronomy 32:8. Now we are coming to the end, my friend. All good things have an end. And likewise, so does this video. I have gone ahead and made all my videos ad-free on Patreon, which also include the scripts with all the sources used. If this would be of interest, then go check it out. Please leave a comment below. They are my favorite part of creating videos. Anyways, I will see you in the next broadcast, mortals.